cointelpro, where they had targeted thousands and thousands of people for investigation based on no violation of the law.
But the fact that the United States government of America would call in 2 mafia people to help us eliminate some guy illegally by murder because we disagreed with him is the kind of thing we were confronted with almost across the board during this investigation. The major part of what we covered was activities against American citizens in this country. And it was very extensive and beyond what most people even realize today.
Yes, I think we were all surprised by the magnitude and the depth of what we saw. If I can just say this, we need a strong FBI. We need a strong CIA and an NSA. We have enemies, and we have to deal with them. And every one of us wanted to make certain when we got done, that part was not compromised and indeed enhanced. But I was chairman of the domestic task force, and we were looking at agencies that dealt domestically, not just the FBI, but the Army and many other agencies that had become involved in one way or another. And when we got into the records, and ours was the only committee probably that's ever looked at a complete, unprotected files of the Bureau and these other agencies with virtually no restrictions on us at all, sending staff and experts into those files. And when they started coming back, I remember once he said, "I can't believe what I read today." And he'd gotten into cointelpro, where they had targeted thousands and thousands of people for investigation based on no violation of the law, just hunches and suspicions, where they were tracking down Martin Luther King, who had committed no crimes, but they were tapping him, they were covering him, they were on his case all the time, and they were trying to dismantle him as a leader of the civil rights movement. And there were many, we'll go into a lot of other things, I'm sure, before the night is over, but the fact that this could happen in America, this nation of laws and accountability, and happen over so many years. Presidents of both political parties were involved in this. It was a bipartisan thing, and there was a lot of this that the agencies had to explain that were the result, directly or indirectly, of pressure from above. Yes, we were surprised.
It was the first time ever in the history of the country that any group ever sat down and looked at the entire intelligence operation of our country at the same time. There was one senator who was reported to by the Intelligence Committee on what they were doing. And he kept it to himself. No, I was amazed when this first idea began to come that we ought to have an investigating committee. I talked to several of the veteran senators, and most of them said, "We don't want to know. I don't want to know what the CIA is doing. I don't know what our intelligence committee is doing." Well, that was fine until these revelations began to come. So the real impetus didn't come from any senator who said, "Well, it's time for us to launch a big investigation." It came after these stories appeared and the people in the country began to wonder what is going on. A survey was taken, and by a percentage of 62 in favor versus 18 against, the people said that there should be more oversight of our intelligence operations. And from that point on, we began to address that problem, and that's why the intelligence committees were formed.
We established through the facts that there had been overreaching by the intelligence community and improper guidance by presidents all the way from Franklin Roosevelt through Richard Nixon. Many people thought when we started it would just be more if Nixon was a bad person, and there was plenty of that was uncovered. But Roosevelt started it off by loose language in authorizing the FBI, and all of the others did things that were bad. Another thing I think that's important about the Church Committee is it asked the right questions, and I think the two fundamental questions were, should America adopt the tactics of the enemy? It's a question of today also. But that was a real issue, and we concluded it shouldn't, but there had been a great deal of adopting those tactics by our secret government. And the other major question was, should the American people be allowed to know what the facts are? And the whole, our work was entirely devoted to helping the American people know what the facts are. And the final thing in the sort of this opening, the Church Committee, as both of you said, it's important to have a strong FBI and a strong CIA. The question is, what are they going to do? And taking the FBI, Roosevelt started them off in the wrong direction by asking them to investigate subversion, a word that has no content and has no limits. And subversion was the excuse of investigating and attempting to destroy Martin Luther King, for example. Well, in our final reports, we said what the FBI should be doing is looking at espionage and terrorism, and there we were a little ahead of the times, looking at espionage and terrorism instead of subversion.
We've now